This weekly podcast inspires you to step outside of your comfort zone. My name is Zakir Muhammad, and I'm your host of the Living Legacy podcast. I am a cancer survivor, brand cultivating strategist, author, and world traveler. This Living Legacy podcast features women of purpose sharing stories of resilience. They are single and married. They are artists and entrepreneurs who run businesses and juggle parenthood. If you are ready to hear interviews about professionalism, entrepreneurship, travel, life, and love, you are in the right place. They will share stories of how they overcame adversity while seeing life through a different lens. Let's get into it. So today on a Living Legacy podcast, we have Nikki Woods. She is a trendsetter, social media influencer, author, motivational speaker, and a mother. Nikki is the mother of two boys who are young adults now and two dogs who thankfully are teenage boys. She studied at Howard University in Washington, D.C. and currently resides in Dallas, Texas. With her widespread and diverse social media platforms, Nikki continues to empower, educate, and enlighten those who are looking to impact the world with their message. She gives speakers, authors, and experts the visibility they need to build a business they love. She has more than 20 years of experience as an on-air personality and former senior producer of the Tom Joyner Morning Show, the most successful syndicated urban radio show in history. She is also the CEO of Nikki Woods Media, a corporation that works with entrepreneurs, influencers who want to grow their businesses to six figures by leveraging the media and monetizing their expertise. She is considered one of the leading media strategists and trainers. She's written six best-selling books and featured in CNN, Huffington Post, Black Enterprise, the New York Times, and much more. She's also positioned her students and clients to be seen for over 873 million people and generated over eight figures in sales from the media. She's mentored more than 500 best-selling authors, and today we get to talk about how we first got connected, the power of why you be an author, getting more media placement, and the importance of pivoting. So thank you, Nikki, for being here. How are you?
I am really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So, okay. First of all, I grew up on the Tom in the morning, so my parents absolutely love this. and and I love the fact that you love connecting with women in the media.
I do. I think that and I think it's a little easier now, but when I first started, I mean it's like if you wanted to get a job, somebody had to lose a job. Like you couldn't make your own opportunities like you have. Like I couldn't go create a podcast because nobody knew what a podcast was. Or I couldn't go start an internet radio show or YouTube even. People didn't really care that much about YouTube. So it was a cutthroat kind of business because everybody was kind of watching their back and they didn't want to help you because they didn't want you to take their job. So I was lucky to meet some very key, women that helped me and was like, whatever you need, just let me know. And it was such an empowering experience and really shifted my mindset, to more, I guess, of an abundance mindset and whatever's for me is for me and nobody can take it. And it just made life so much easier for me. And so even though, like I said, I think there are a lot of opportunities now for people to really just say, I'm going to just do it. I don't have to wait for anybody to give me permission. I still think that there's some value in guidance and value in mentoring and value in support and just, pouring into somebody else to help them get to where they want to be.
Absolutely, and I feel like that's really important because I mean the quote is there of it does get kind of lonely the higher you get up the success ladder, but I'm starting to believe it doesn't have to as long as you find the right person to hold their hand and take them with you.
Yeah, I look at it like it's like, the whole field of coaching now. I mean, I think that, you can struggle and you can do it on your own because you don't want, anybody to take anything. Or you can, benefit from the experience that other people have had. And, obviously a coach, you pay them, but mentors, usually are free. And so I really think it's everybody's responsibility in one form or another to mentor somebody along the way.
Absolutely. So here's a funny story. Okay, so we first got connected through Twitter. We've been connected on Twitter for so long, and then in 2014, I got to direct and produce my first ever PSA of my own. So I collaborated with Charles Maddox, he's Bob Marley's nephew, and we originally met at the Congressional Black Caucus. This was when I was living in Washington D.C. So he was like, "Okay, we need people who support diabetes or are diabetic or have family who are diabetic." So I'm like, okay, let me see who I can reach out to. So I reached out to several different people, and you were one of them. And so you wanted to do it, but then it was like, but wait, well, it's not gonna work out. But we just in touch anyways.
We didn't have Zoom at the time, right?
Exactly, exactly. So, but it worked out, and so we just kind of kept in touch, and we were just on every other social media platform since, and it's such a small world, anyways.
And,
So
and it's so
yeah.
funny because like my team will bring like as we brainstorm for clients and even myself to do media, they'll bring me names. And when they put yours in front of me, I was like, that's my buddy. Like my buddy. Don't worry about that one. So it's funny to see their faces. They're like, you just know so many people. And I was like, that's the power of social media. It's like you can just shrink the world, like you said. So
Exactly, exactly. And so what's so funny is that I wanted to start my podcast. Originally, the Living Legacy podcast was supposed to shine a light on how dark the entertainment music industry can be, but also educate, inspire, bring more women to the forefront, right? And I'm like, I don't know. Hold on. Pivot this a little bit. So then became to be, okay, let me talk about who I am as a photographer, as a media, strategist. And it's been season 3 and it's been amazing. So I get to have you on here finally, and we get to talk about the good stuff. So we get to go up close and personal and talk about the road less traveled, right? Because I believe you've taken a few roads less traveled.
road less traveled for sure. For sure. Yeah, but you know what? It's interesting because, entertainment continues to be, it's always been, it's just a challenging industry to be in. I mean, you're judged on who you are and what you do. It's not that you can add a row of numbers, like an accountant it really is you and your personality. And so you've got to develop some very tough skin in order to remain in this business. And so even though it has been challenging, I mean, there have been some days where I'm like, I just want to go work at Walmart. But, I've also had so many amazing experiences and I've learned so much and I've grown so much and met so many amazing people that like I couldn't imagine having done anything else.
Right. And that's the thing. It is really hard, but we don't want to steer anybody away. If you are naturally a creative, like this competition is for you, the industry can be for you, there's a way to make it work. But what are some things you learned that most women don't know? And how have you utilized those skills, since then? Of what have you learned and what most people don't know?
I think the one thing that has served me very well, and I think that a lot of women get it wrong, but they have to get it wrong. And I think that's because even in the entertainment industry and in radio and TV, it's still a very much male dominated, industry like many are. And so I think that when you're in, a position of management or it's like, on a daily basis, I was telling people like Tom Joyner, Al Sharpton, Roland Martin, Don Lemon, these high powered dudes, like what to do. Like I was the boss. And so I think that a lot of women then, they take on very manly kind of, characteristics because they want to be taken seriously and they want people to, and for me, that just never worked. It's like, I don't want to be a dude. I don't want to be harsh. I don't want to be, I don't want all this testosterone energy. There's enough. But you have to be very sure of who you are. And so a lot of times in those situations, they either go one way where it's just they're too harsh, and then they go the other way, which can get you in a lot of trouble too. So it's really about owning who you are and just being very comfortable in the fact that you can be a woman and you can be feminine and you can be, I'm a mother. Like, I don't want anybody to feel bad. I want everybody to get along. I want to nurture and love and bake cookies. But you can still be in control and be a leader at the same time. And so I think that when you own that and you really own who you are, it makes life a lot easier because once you start compromising, then that next compromise is like right around the corner. It's like you got to keep going. And I think people know it's not genuine, and I don't think that they respect it. And when I came in, Tom was like, "You was tough." Like I came in and I was like, "Look, this is what's gonna happen. Like, okay, like as long as we, I don't want to be your friend. We don't have to hang out. We're gonna just make some good radio, and we're gonna get it done." And I think that he just respected that from the get go. And even though we did become friends and we did hang out, we had a very professionally respective relationship, and it worked well for us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, I mean, no new friends, but at the same time, good friends can get you in the right place. Like that's all it is. It's a matter of knowing the right people, being in the right place at the right time.
Well, I just think those are good relationships, right? And so I don't think I've always been of the mindset like I don't have to like you to work with you. We don't have to go eat. breakfast together. We don't have to go, our kids don't have to play together. I mean, we can have a very, warm professional relationship, productive relationship, and get things done. And I think that's the difference. Like, you definitely want to build relationships, and you want to nurture those relationships, and you don't want to end those relationships unnecessarily, because it is a small world. And I don't think people really realize how I know the producer at Steve Harvey, I know the producer at Ricky Smiley, I know the producer at Oprah. It's a small world. And, if you do something that irritates me, we're just having a producer fest, right? We're just venting. It's not like I'm calling them and saying, oh, don't ever book. But I'd be like, I had this, she was 10 minutes late and then she wanted to be deep, and so word gets around, and you just don't want that to happen. I think it's really important, like you said, just to build great relationships, but at the same time, you don't have to be friends with everybody. Exactly. But having a great relationship and being friends are two, totally different things.
Now let's talk about pitching. Like, those who are getting their feet wet, right? They're getting started. They know what they want, right? So they're shooting for the star, which is great. But there's a right and wrong way to pitch. So
absolutely,
let's talk about that.
So I think the biggest shift that people need to make when they want to pitch the media is they have to realize it's really not about you. Like, it's not about your book. It's not about the fact that you have a business and a service. It really is about what you're going to bring to the audience and what value you have to deliver. Now, of course, if you wrote a book that teaches somebody how to become a millionaire in 3 years, the value is what you've written in the book. And so instead of, emailing, and I got tons of these, emailing and in the subject line, I just published my first book. I want to tell your audience about it. No. As opposed to saying, I want to help your listeners become millionaires in 3 years. I have strategies and tips to get them there. That's an automatic yes, right? And oh, you happen to have a book that people can buy. So it's that kind of mindset. I mean, I know I've written books, so I know how long it takes. I know how proud people are, writing songs. I mean, it's labors of love. They're your babies. But we don't have to love them. We just have to know what it's going to do to help us. And I think that's the biggest thing. If you lead with the value, more media will open to you. And then I think the other thing that people just seem to think is that it's just them. Like, they're the only person pitching the media. And so if I don't respond within, 5 minutes, they're calling me on the phone, did you get my pitch? And I'm like, yeah, yours and 999 other people's. So people take it really personally if they don't get an answer right away, or if they don't get an answer at all, and then they just quit because they think nobody, wants to hear what they have to say. And that's really, I would say 75% of the time, that's probably not the case. 75% of the time, they probably haven't even seen your email. So take a breath, put your big girl panties on, and send a follow-up email. Even I, as I pitch, and I know so many people in the media, we're colleagues, we're friends, they see my name, they're going to open the email. Even then, I don't always get a response on the first email because, like I would, they open it, they look, oh, cool, and I'll get back to her. And then 3 days later, then they think about it again. So most people will get booked on the follow-up and not necessarily the initial email. So if you don't get a response and you give up, then you've just, stabbed yourself in the foot. You realize that you're not the only one. It is not personal. You just have to keep trying, but definitely send a follow-up email, because that's really, they always say the fortune is in the follow-up. And that's true in the media as well.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. And some people, that's, like you said, that's where they lose it. They lose it in a follow-up. It doesn't mean no. Most of the time, it's not right now, because they got so many other things going on.
Oh yeah, no, literally, I would get thousands of pitches a day. I mean, from and it's not just from people like us, people who really have something to say. It could be from a drug company, or some organization that just constructed some kind of a steel toe that they think would, it's everybody. So it's just a mirage of information, and nobody has the time to sit there and go through all of them and then send this politely worded, maybe not now, but contact me in 2 months. And maybe, nobody has time to do that. But then there are also some very basic things my name is spelled Nikki, so if I get one that says Nicky, it's going to be an issue, quite frankly. We're still in the entertainment business. It's still ego driven. And so you just want to get some very basic things right. And I think the beauty of where we are now is you can just Google them on Twitter and figure out how to spell their name. There's so much information that you can get now and so many different ways to contact people because journalists will take pictures on social media now. You don't even have to just email them. You can just hit, inbox them on Instagram. And, or sometimes they're looking on Facebook and they see you doing a live and they reach out and want to book you. So I think it's just the world has just opened up in so many different ways. And even when it comes to getting media.
Are you ready to start your own podcast? Now is the best time for you to share your story. Your story needs to be told. Sign up with my promo code LEGACY at signup.libsyn.com to get 45 days of free hosting. That means this month and next month free. So visit signup.libsyn.com and use promo code LEGACY. I love that. Now let's talk about the different mediums that there are out there now. Okay, so there are blogs, podcasts, print. What are the difference to you? What are the difference between each when it comes to pitching, getting media placement? Or are they similar?
Well, no, they're not necessarily similar, but I think that everybody thinks that, they have to be on CNN, and if they don't, then it's like this, total failure. Like they just haven't made it in life. And obviously CNN is great. I mean, that's 20 million people that you've got as captive audience. But if the goal is to fill your event, or if the goal is to get somebody to come into your barbecue store or something like that, I mean, CNN may not be the most beneficial place for you because somebody in New York is not driving down to the foothills of Georgia to go get barbecue. So you just have to think and figure out what your goals are and then match it up to that. And then I think the other thing that people don't realize is that there are some really, really large podcasts out there. And so if you get a podcast that may reach 5,000 to 10,000 people, even less than that, but because podcasts are so specific, you have 5,000 to 10,000 of people who are your ideal client, then that is a winner all day long over being on CNN with 20 million people and none of them care what you do. Right. So there's blogs for everything. I was reading something somewhere and there's a blog for people who all they do is travel around in RVs. And it's like called the RV Life. Like, who listens to that? But they're the number one podcast. They've got like hundreds of thousands of downloads. So it's like podcasts are so great because you really can go to a very specific audience. But I think the goal is always to diversify as well. And so sometimes local media is great. Sometimes print is better. It just depends. So you really want to think about your strategy, what your goal is, and what's going to get you there the quickest. And if you go on, actually, I'm just share this now before I forget. But if you go on my website, there's a template for a press release that I send out. But if you get that, like 3 emails down the line, you'll get how to put together a PR strategy. And so it'll tell you kind of like what the differences are and what really works. Some people, I have one client who we can't book her on traditional media to say, because she can't say anything in 5 minutes or less. She just cannot. So she's got to be on a podcast where she has 30 minutes to get her message out. So it really just does depend on who you are and what you do and what your goal is.
Yeah. So I believe messaging is important. Perfecting your message is important. My parents have introduced me to Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris, and her message is about childhood trauma. So she's been doing such a good job about talking about it. So she actually got to do a TED Talk. And so that's where we started. We started off with the TED Talk, and then we found one with her on Google Digest. And so for me, I'm like, she has perfected her message because the first video, I learned a lot. The second video, I'm like, okay, it's reinforcement because she's saying the same exact thing. So how important do you think it is for people to really perfect their message and make sure they have the same message wherever they are?
So I don't know. Well, I think everybody has the same foundational thing. I think everybody, at the very heart, if you boil it down, you have one very basic thing that you do. Like I'm all about communication, whatever that means, whether I'm being interviewed or I'm interviewing somebody or I'm helping somebody else to get interviews, it's all about communication. And so knowing that and who you are really kind of cuts out the noise. And so you're not running over here and doing here just because you want to get media. But I think that the thing that's so important about messaging, and TED Talks are a great way to really hear this, is that it's not about like what you know. It's like I've worked with like doctors and surgeons and scientists, and I'm like, oh, people do not care like what that particle is. Like they just really do not. And so it's about when you get your messaging right, you get what motivates what you do. So you get why you do what you do. So the person, and I'm sorry I didn't get her name, but what, she talks about childhood trauma because there's some motivation for her to talk about it, right? And so I was talking to this therapist, it was a few years ago, and and everybody's like, well, why did you decide to go into radio? And I was like, I don't know, why not? Why not do TV, And so I was talking to this therapist who wanted to be a client, and she was therapying me. And so we were just talking, and I was telling her a story about my father who used to, we were doing something, and he was trying to get something important done. And all of a sudden, he just turned around and he told me, he was like, shut up. He's like, nobody wants to hear it. And it was so unlike my dad that it was traumatized. And so I told her that story, and she's like, well, who else would want to talk to 10 million people every single day other than a little girl who was told to shut up and nobody ever wanted to hear what you had to say? Like, you're going out every day saying 10 million people are listening to me, and it's just, so that's what motivated me. And so learning that you really can put your messaging together and you can tell that story and then people can connect with you. But if you're just throwing facts and figures and particles and, then people don't care. They'll get to that later, but they want to connect from the heart. And what's so brilliant about TEDx and getting your messaging is that's what that does. That hones the facts and the figures down to what really connects you, and that's your heart.
Absolutely. And you basically did that in your book, Shift, that you published in 2015, 20 women sharing stories of strength, courage, and succeeding against all odds. And so how do you help other authors to really narrow down that story and really just kind of become an author for the first time, get that story out there to become an author?
Yeah, I think that process is so interesting, and I'm going through this with a group of guys. I'm not actually doing the writing, but somebody else is. And it was funny because we interviewed them, we got their story. They're all very successful lawyers, and they want to write a book about their success, but also the challenges that they've overcome. And so they're telling us all this stuff, and we're writing it down, and then we send them back their chapters to read, and they were like, "This isn't what I said," and I'm like, "That's exactly what you said." And it's interesting when you really do, when somebody else hears it and hears the heart and puts it on paper, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't know that came across so strongly. And so what I love, and I think it's just the interview process. I think it's the conversation. Like I could do this with you all day, right? I love the conversation. And so I think that that's what was so special about Shift is we had all of these phenomenal conversations with women who had been through some things. I mean, some I couldn't even imagine, but had come out the other side. And I, at the time that I decided to do it, had been really struggling because, in the media, you have a very public life, but you have a very private life at the same time. And you're very careful about what information you share. And so I didn't share, like I've never told anybody my daddy told me to shut up. I'd never shared any of the trauma that I had been through, the challenges. And when my niece got old enough to go to college, I was like, this is not fair. It's not fair for people to look at you and think that you have this life, that's not true. I mean, even though I have a great life, it's not, there have been bumps and bruises, and I wanted people to know it is okay to fall. It is okay to be beaten down. Like sometimes it's not even your fault. And it happens, but it is your choice to stay there. Like it's your choice to be a victim or to come out of it. And I think that's why I love radio and TV and writing and all those forms of communications, because to me, it's just about storytelling. And when you tell your story, you give other people permission to tell theirs. And I think that we're only, as somebody said, as sick as our secrets. And so the more that we keep in and don't share, other people keep it in and may do even more dangerous things. And so, I think it's really important for people to tell their story and not just the pretty part of it. What happened before and how did you deal with it and get through it? Because honestly, I don't think there's anything that anybody can go through that somebody else hasn't already been through in one form or the other. But if we don't share it, then people feel like they're alone and they're ashamed. And that's when it goes bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, most of the time, you have to step outside of yourself to really see what's really going on. But also, there is someone who always has it worse than you, even if it doesn't feel like that because it's so dark right now with wherever you're going right now. But there is a way to get to the other side of the tunnel, see the rainbow at the end, because it's always.
Yeah, and I mean, but it's like having conversations like this, which is why I think what you do is so important. Bringing people's stories to a wider audience, and really being able to break things down for people. I think it's super important. I mean, I'm like, my kids don't think I'm about much. Like, you know what I mean? It's like we go out in
But
public.
that's a good thing in a way. At least they're not like my mom's a celebrity,
Yeah, they think I'm their mom, and it's like we go out in public, and my youngest son told me that I had to stop telling people just to Google me, because people are like, "Well, who are you?" I'll be like, "Well, just go Google." He's like, "Mom, you can't tell people that." I'm like, "But I can because I've worked very hard to get to the top of Google." So it's but like I said, when I'm at home, like I got 2 kids that need me, I got 2 dogs that got to go outside and go to the bathroom every 2 hours. It's like a very regular life. And so I don't want anybody ever to think that, I walk around in like red lipstick, all day and it's all glitz and glam, because it's not. And that's okay. But I think people get into this life thinking it's going to be a certain way. Everybody's living their best life, on social media, and they think that it's always that way. And when it's not, they think that they've done something wrong or something's wrong with them. So I really think it's irresponsible of people not to be transparent about who they are and their story. Now, how you share it, obviously, I have no judgment about, but I just think it's irresponsible not to give people the truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I just want to say thank you for being so open and vulnerable and accessible, and for being so open with collaborating with other women, other authors. And so how can people really do that, to really work with you one-on-one, or get one of your services, or get one of your templates?
So they can go to my website, which is nickywoodsmedia.com. But my mom says it's easier to tweet me than it is to call me. So you can find me everywhere on social media. I love talking to people. I love meeting different people. I think one of the things that this, kind of forced time out has done for a lot of us is to really be able to take the time and nurture some of these relationships. We've had just kind of like social media meetups where we've just, all gotten together on a Zoom call and just talked because we have a little bit of extra time. So yeah, you can get at me on social media, or you can, hit me up on my website. You can contact me through there. I've got a lot of free resources if you're interested in getting greater visibility for your business or your brand. But like most of all, I just like to talk to people.
I love that. Now, you've been in film, you've been in broadcast, you've been a producer, you've been in PR, but what do you think would define you as your purpose?
Like I said, I think my purpose is to share stories. And I think that the element that I do it best in is on air. I mean, I think that the conversations that like that we can bring to the forefront is what fulfills me most. But I think that everything I have done, like life is so layered. And so I think that everything I've done has like just added to where I'm going. And I really love that. I mean, I love that I have such a diverse communications, background. One of the reasons that Tom hired me as a producer is because I had been on air. And I really could understand like what he would need in order to do his job, because some people don't. I mean, it's like, somebody, trying to train a singer how to be a singer, but they've never sung. It's a different feel. So everything, I think in my career and things have gone wrong. Like I've been fired a few times, it's like, they say in radio and TV, if you don't get fired at least twice, you're not really doing your job. So it's not like a bad thing, but I think what's interesting about it is like, because I think so many people are afraid to be fired. And I think so many people, and I just look at it as a release, like I'm just not supposed to be there anymore. And every time that's happened, like, I got fired. Well, I don't know if I got fired or I left in Boston, but it was a bad situation. But I was in Boston. And even though it was a top 10 market, it was what they call a sun up to sundown station. So when, the sun came up, they went on. When sun went down, they went off. And so I went from Boston to Chicago, which was $1 million market. I mean, a 1 million person market. So that was an upgrade. And then they fired me in Chicago because they brought in Steve Harvey Morning Show. And then I went to Dallas, and that's 122 cities, 10 million people. Upgrade. So it's like you have to, I think it's all how you frame things. And so for me, I think I've loved every aspect of it. But if you're like talking about like what really feeds my soul, it's like these conversations that I would have when I'm on air. So that's why I still do a lot of it. I still do podcasts. I still love doing interviews. I still do freelance. But I also knew that I had a greater purpose to help people figure that part of it out too. So I love the business that I do as well.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so we're definitely going to be in touch with you anyway. It's the best way for us extroverted introverts and extroverts to still get together, communicate. Well, I'm extroverted introvert, right? So like when I'm in work mode, I'm like but I don't mind a Friday night movies, popcorn, hot
Yeah,
chocolate, no nothing and nobody too. So
yeah.
what do
Now
you
I'm
what do you think you are though?
an introvert, so I will just say that. So, but I
Okay.
think that you learn to do what you have to do in order to be successful in what you love, and part of being in the public eye is that you have to be public. so I
Exactly.
love it, but yeah, I am very much an introvert.
Love it, love it. And that's Bobby Bonds. Well, thank you, Nikki. This has been fun.
Thank you. I enjoy it, and I can't wait to share this with everybody so more people can learn about you and what you're doing.
And you too. I mean, but that's the thing about us women. Like we're like the backbone of all these men. Like you say, we give birth to their dreams. But like, what about us? So yeah,
Without us.
yeah.
No, and I think that's phenomenal. And so I'm honored that you had me on. I love the conversation, and obviously if there's anything I can do to support you, you just let me know. And we'll rock this out.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Living Legacy podcast. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and download so you don't miss the next episode. If you want to learn more, you can visit ZakiraNayar.com. That's ZakirAhNayar.com. Do you have any suggestions on a topic you want to be talked about? Send me an email or leave them in a review. If you love this episode, be sure to share it with your friends.